It's been 5 months since our last power bill, so let's talk about it. That's right, we haven't paid a power bill in the last 5 months because we set up an entire solar system set up right here back in July. And we honestly did it because we were tired of hemorrhaging money. I don't know how to exactly explain that, but I'm sure if you looked at your most recent power bill, you probably are sitting there in shock because Duke Energy actually just went up again back in October on their rates. So now everybody's power bill is going up even more again. Now, if you don't know, I actually built this house back in August of 2016. So we are the first and only homeowners that's ever been in this house. And that has a lot to do with why we actually put solar on our house, because we've seen the power bill go from one extreme to the other extreme. We've seen it below 125 and then all of a sudden it jumped over $300 in the last year, and we had enough. Now, I don't know about you, but my wages have not increased basically 100% in the last 4 years. And that has a lot to do with why I and everyone else is feeling the pinch, and why everybody right now is probably thinking about adding solar to their house. Now, if you're one of these people that are thinking about getting solar, then you're definitely at the right place, because I'm going to go over everything that we have seen in the last 5 months so you can know what to expect if you decide to put solar on your place too. So let's talk about the whole beginning process of this whole thing, because I think that is a lot easier to explain to get into the 5 months period that we've actually had this. So if you're actually thinking about actually getting solar, then just know it is a pretty drawn out process. We started this whole process back in April when we signed the dotted line that we were going to go ahead and get the solar put on our house with the installers that we chose. And even before then, we actually were going through a whole interview process with another company on the possibility of them setting up our solar system, and going back and forth and trying to figure out who was telling me the truth and who wasn't telling me the truth. All that stuff mattered because I was getting completely different quotes. I wasn't being told one thing that I was being told from another solar company. So that process made it even longer because I was trying to figure out what was right and what was wrong, and who was trying to upsell and who was not trying to upsell. And at the end of the day, I was trying to make sure I wasn't in a nightmare situation where I was owing on my solar panels and also having a power bill. So I couldn't imagine having a payment on top of a payment, because that would defeat the whole purpose of doing all this stuff. So choosing the right company was the most important part of this entire thing, because they need to make sure they calculate what your correct input and outputs are for your house. And when they do that, they're actually telling you how many solar panels you actually need. So one company might be telling you you need 30 panels, and another solar company might be telling you you need 37 or 38 panels. Someone is wrong in that whole situation. You're going to end up owing two people money, or you're going to get away with only having one payment. So you need to make sure you're choosing the right people. Now, after I chose NC Solar Now, and they showed up in July, so after we signed the dotted line in April, they showed up in July on July 9th or 10th, and it took 2 days to put everything up and get everything up and running. And at that point, it was just a matter of seeing how the whole system ran. You can play around with it because I have the Tesla Powerwall 3, so you can tinker around with it to say, hey, I want you to use 100% of the battery or a little bit of the battery during the day when the sun goes down and everything else, because I can go off grid completely with this system. I just have to monitor what I'm actually using in my house in order to do that. But learning how to use that whole Tesla Powerwall 3 is a whole nother story for another day. Let's talk about what my power bill looked like, because I got everything up and running. Now, I told you I installed all this stuff on July 9th or 10th. So that means I had at least 8 days showing on that first power bill. And there was enough light during that whole 20 days left that I actually didn't have to have a single power payment in July. Let me try to reword that. So basically what I'm telling you is the 8 days before I got this system put on my house, I was having to pay for power. So considering it full price, and the remaining 20 days, I was actually getting energy from my solar panels, and that solar panels produced enough energy to provide my house all the power it needed, so it would cancel out the payment for my power, and it also had enough sold back to the company to offset the first 8 days of July. So yeah, in 20 days, I had enough power sold back to the company to offset the first 8 days of July. Pretty wild, and consider that a bank going back to them that you can use later on. So basically what I'm saying is if you don't produce enough power, then you rely on the bank of energy that you've sold back to the company. And if there's a shortage at that point from the difference between the bank and what you've produced that month, then you can have a power bill. So hopefully by now you realize how important it is to actually choose the correct solar company, because they have to calculate what they consider overcast days, rainy days. They have to calculate how many days during that month you might have to make sure that you have the right amount of energy being produced by your solar panels. So there is a happy medium with calculating how much you really need on your house, because you're going to have some rainy days, you're going to have some overcast days, and come wintertime, you're going to have a whole lot different weather to deal with when it comes to knowing how much energy you're going to produce with your solar too. But I don't want to skip to winter just yet. Even though it's winter, I need to tell you about August. I also need to tell you about September, and I need to tell you about October. All 3 months, I did have a credit, or at least break even on. And I can tell you that I was roughly sitting around $100 credit towards my power in case I had shortages to provide for my bill credits this upcoming winter, because the sun and the season changes and there's a lot more overcast, and you're going to need that bank in order to maintain and make sure you don't have any power bill during the winter. So imagine this. Basically, you need to think about it. During your hot months, your bank is actually going up, and you're actually storing all this money to pay for your winter. So you can imagine April, May, June, July, August, September. I might have missed a month, I don't know. But I'm saying your entire time, you're actually storing money. When you actually have those shorter days, your bank is going to offset. Your bank's going to start decreasing, and you're going to start using that towards your power bill. And that is where we are today. We're in those shorter days. So I can tell you in November, we definitely did not produce enough energy to offset the power bill that we were going to have. So the bank that we had stored up from July until all the way up to November is actually being used as of November. And that is critical, because I need that bank to last me through basically the first quarter, or we get those longer days. Otherwise, I'm actually going to have to shell out of my own bank account and pay my very first power bill since having solar installed on my house. But listen, don't let that alarm you, because I didn't have it installed until July. So I basically missed 3 to 4 months of being able to store up power to last me through that time frame. So here we are today. I have about $50 left until I run out, and hopefully I will break even on this year, even though I got it installed in July. And hopefully all of next year I'll have everything stored up enough to make it through the following year in 2025. Now, if you're real smart and actually thought ahead, you probably just said to yourself, well, this is the first year that you've had these, and all you did was basically break even. So what's the point? Because these things aren't going to be as efficient as they get older. And sadly, you are correct. These things are going to lose their efficiency over the years. However, after 25 years, based off the solar company and the manufacturer warranty on these things will actually be a 90% efficiency rating, which means hopefully next year I'll have a full-blown analysis on what I can fully expect for each year going forward. So if for 2025 I actually had a credit, I can at least know at the end of the year, if I still had money in the bank with Duke Energy, that more than likely over the next 5 or even 10 years, I still will have a credit. So hopefully by now you have figured out how important it is to choose the right solar company in order to do all these calculations for you. You don't want multiple bills, because at the end of the day, all you really want is, if you end up financing these things, you just want that payment. You don't want a power bill on top of a solar payment that you're going to end up getting financed unless you pay cash for them. Now, if you're wondering if I really think this is actually worth it, because it is a huge investment, I can tell you it really just depends on what you're really trying to accomplish. Because if you're really trying to accomplish just eliminating your actual power bill, yes, it can be done. The only exception is if you have trees all around your house, then it probably can't be done. But if you have one objective, as to eliminate a power bill, then I can tell you, I've done it.